The widow of Fire Chief Corey Comparatori, who was killed in the Trump assassination attempt, slamming the Secret Service as her family searches for answers. Now today, a brand new Government Accountability Office report on the assassination attempt is shedding new light on the days leading up to the Butler rally. For more, let's bring in former New York State Homeland Security Advisor Michael Balboni. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
So let's start with the brand new GAO report. The headlines of the day are the findings in the years since the assassination attempt. Senior level Secret Service agents received intelligence of a threat 10 days before the Butler rally. Secret Service failed to relay threat to local and federal law enforcement. Agent in charge of identifying site vulnerabilities was new to the job, and the rally was her first role securing a large outdoor rally. What's your assessment, Michael?
The way the Secret Service works is that this is a no-failure agency. The most important mission that they have is protecting the President of the United States, bar none. And so there can be zero tolerance for these types of situations. Outlined in the report is this failure of sharing the intelligence. That is absolutely crucial. The way the Secret Service works, and I've been involved in several national security events, is they work directly hand in hand with local law enforcement. Everything from the law enforcement handling traffic, being able to handle traffic, pedestrian flow within the venue. Very, very important to have that kind of support. But crucial is also sharing intelligence. To not do that, and then to have the site agent who's supposed to be doing a vulnerability assessment, not having the experience. I mean, this is, at the time, the candidate for president, but a former president, and frankly, in an incredibly, one of the most polarized political situations that we have ever witnessed in the United States. And to put somebody who's new for this type of site in charge of this is an abject failure.
The lack of sharing sounds like a pre-9/11 mentality. I mean, the Department of Homeland Security was created to get these agencies to talk to one another. What about that aspect of the failure?
And not only is it the failure to share intelligence, but some of the reports have also talked about the fact that they didn't have one communications platform that they would decide that they would all use ahead of time. That kind of coordination only comes with a focused, determined collaboration between all the parties who were on scene. And apparently that did not happen. But again, what is so stunning is not only the fact that the president was nearly killed, but the fact that a man with a weapon got that close. That in and of itself, that's where the failure began, not be able to secure that perimeter. And the way this works is line of sight, the distance, they have a circumference that they draw around the site, and they zone in weapons. How far out would someone have to be able to effectuate their aim and their target? And that wasn't done here. It's an amazing failure. This report is absolutely crucial, not just because it's Donald Trump, because it is the President of the United States going forward.
6 Secret Service agents were suspended. We know U.S. Senator Dave McCormick is demanding answers. Let's play him, and I'll get you to react.
I'm not saying that there's some conspiracy or something like that. What I am saying is that all of us, including a member of the United States Senate, should have an explanation that gives us confidence.
Will the senator and others get answers?
I believe that they have to, but take a look at the president's reaction on this. The president has been very careful in dealing with the situation. I think part of it that shows how much faith he has had in the Secret Service. He understands that mistakes are made, but nonetheless, there are many in the community who are in the security community who are looking at the suspensions and saying, what? Why aren't they fired? Or why isn't it more of an investigation? The fact it took a year for this report, this is the anniversary of the shooting, to me, that says that you've got different priorities out there. This should be priority number one when it comes to the safety and security of the leadership of the United States.
As a law enforcement professional, Homeland Security professional, are you confident Secret Service has tightened things up in the past year?
They've done a lot to change the procedures, to do the different training. But you know what it always comes down to? It comes down to the resource allocations, to have the commitment that says, we are going to treat this agency as one of the most premier agencies out there. This is the first time since Reagan's shooting. It is very easy to get complacent when day after day you don't have something like this. That is the moment of danger. And that's what was on display here.
Final thought, Michael. Are you confident that when President Trump is out and about, he was in Texas yesterday, is he safe?
Look, the fact of the matter is that there's no way to guarantee someone's safety. You just can't do it. There's no amount of intelligence that can say this will never happen. There's always a risk. You can't eliminate the risk, you manage the risk. And given this kind of focus, this shouldn't be a one and done. This should be something where every time there's an evaluation, this should take place where they say, okay, did we learn the lessons of Butler? What are we going to do different this time? And how are we going to institutionalize that?
Michael Balboni, thanks very much for your analysis today.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.